you all, lovely to see you all again. In this lesson I wanted to talk about improvisation. I've done a couple of tips and tricks videos, but in this particular lesson I wanted to talk about the concept of joining a pentatonic with sort of a branch of one of the 7 modes, and just ways that we can increase interest and adventures across the fretboard when we're improvising. So what I wanted to do is basically, the premise of today's lesson would be around E minor or E Aeolian, and then we can sort of modulate that into other keys, also other modes as well, like Dorian, Phrygian and Ionian. So what I wanted to do is have a look at the E minor scale to 8 notes, and then go into a bit of theory about the pentatonic and the modes that would go with that, and then I want to show you how I would apply that, and then eventually leave you guys to your own devices. So if we look at E minor as a basic diatonic scale, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. I want to think of that as the Aeolian mode and talk a bit about the modal order and the way that we can find other things to go with that scale, as opposed to just having the straight E minor pentatonic and then just the diatonic scale to go with that. So let's talk about it a little bit more theoretically. Okay, so we've talked about the E minor scale briefly. Now I want to talk about it as the Aeolian scale. Now the Aeolian scale is actually the 6th mode. Now I want to talk about the modal order very briefly. There's 7 modes, and it goes Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian and Locrian. As you can see, Aeolian is the 6th mode. Now what I want to do is put all of the notes of the E minor scale or the Aeolian scale just in order, and then underneath that I want to put underneath those the modal numbers, which will be relative to the note in the scale and what mode that can create that is relative to the scale. Now it does sound a little bit complicated, but let's just have a look at these little diagrams. As you can see, we've gone from 6, 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is exactly the same as the relative major to minor concept. We just have 7 options now instead of 2. So now we'll have E Aeolian, F sharp Locrian, G Ionian, A Dorian, B Phrygian, C Lydian, and D Mixolydian. So now that we've sort of covered that modal concept, I want to quickly talk about the pentatonic, which is made up of 5 notes. If we look at the Aeolian scale, we're going to use the 1st, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the 7th of that scale to find our pentatonic, which would be E, G, A, B, and D. So that, when we find those 5 notes for the pentatonic, it also gives us the 5 pentatonic branches that go across the fretboard. So what I want to do now is look at the pentatonic shapes and then find the root note of those particular pentatonic shapes and then put them with one of the 7 modes. So if we look at the first shape of the pentatonic, that is being led from an E note, then we can put an Aeolian scale with that. If we look at the second note of the pentatonic and we're looking at the second branch of the pentatonic, we have a G note, so we can play that branch of the pentatonic with a G Ionian scale, and so on and so forth. If we look at the third branch, we have an A note at the beginning, we can put an A Dorian scale with that. If we have a look at the 4th branch, I think that's leading from the B, we're going to add a Phrygian to that, and then finally we've got the 5th branch leading from a D, we can add a Mixolydian. So let's have a quick look at those scale shapes, and then we'll try and put them in an improvised context. I'll also show you how I go about it, and then we can work it from there. Alright, thanks for your patience guys. Sorry to bombard you with theory and the sound of my voice. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but it will come in handy. So let's quickly go over these scale shapes, the pentatonic and the diatonic modes. I'll chuck a tab above my head as we're talking about it. So initially I wanted to have a look at the first branch of the pentatonic and the modes that go with that. There is some links in the description as well if you guys want to go over this in a bit more detail. So I'm going to look at the first branch of the pentatonic and pair that with the E Aeolian mode. The second branch of the pentatonic leads from a G note, so we've got this shape. I'm going to pair that with a G Ionian shape. Okay, I've got the third branch of the pentatonic. That's leading from an A, and I'm going to pair that with an A Dorian mode. Okay, let's have a look at the 4th branch of the pentatonic, which is leading from a B. Pair that with a B Phrygian mode. fifth branch of the pentatonic, which is leading from a D note. And I'm going to pair that with a D Mixolydian scale. Alright, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to chuck on the backing and then just jump through those branches with the relative modes and show you how that all works, and then hopefully, if that makes enough sense, you guys can be left to your own devices to weave some melodic win of your own. So let's give it a shot. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that was helpful. I've got a link to some references on pentatonics and modes in the description box, and also a link to the jam track that I use, so you guys can get similar sounds and vibes that I was improvising over from that YouTube link to the jam track. Hope you guys have enjoyed that. I'll catch you real soon.